And who will be the employer's first witness?
Our first witness is James' mother.
Yes, let me go ahead and swear the witness. If you could raise your right hand, please. Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give on the matter before the arbitrator is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You can proceed.
Okay. Who are you in relation to James?
I'm his mother.
How old is James?
He is 7 years old.
Where were you at the time of the incident?
I was in the kitchen cooking dinner.
Did you know where James was at the time of the incident?
I knew that he was outside playing with his friends.
Has James ever gotten in trouble at school?
No, he hasn't.
Has James ever gotten in trouble with the police?
No, he hasn't.
When you go outside, where was James?
When I got onto the scene, James was in handcuffs in the back of the police car.
What reason did the officer give you for arresting James?
She told me that he was under arrest for being an incorrigible juvenile, which, to be honest, I didn't understand.
Did James understand what was going on?
He understood that he had done something wrong, but he did not understand why he was in the back of a police car. He was just crying to his dad and myself, asking us to get him out of there and take him home.
Okay. How did the officer speak to James, or what did she say to him?
She just told him that he was under arrest for being an incorrigible juvenile, which I don't think he understood.
Did the officer release James as a minor to you and your husband right away?
No, we had to ask her several times for him to be released. I felt like I practically had to beg her and promise her that I would deal with the situation before she released him.
Did the officer place handcuffs on James?
Yes, she did.
Did the officer appear to be calm throughout the incident?
She seemed to have a short temper with James. She refused to talk to him until he stopped crying. That's about it.
Was anyone else around during the time of the incident?
Yes, some of our neighbors that were outside, when the police car had stopped and the lights were flashing, they kind of noticed the commotion and came over to check out what's going on and stood there during the incident.
Did anything happen in the days following the incident that was out of the ordinary?
Several of our neighbors came to the house to ask me what had been going on and to check on James, see how he was doing. A lot of our neighbors seemed as upset as we were.
When James and your husband got back inside after the police officer left, what condition were they in?
My husband was just upset that the whole incident had occurred. James was crying. He couldn't catch his breath. He was shaking. Even going into the evening, he ended up sleeping in our room. He woke up throughout the night crying. He just was not comfortable.
How has James behaved since the incident?
He's still not 100% back to normal. He doesn't want to go outside and play with his friends as much. His teacher has contacted me concerned about his behavior at school and that his schoolwork has been dropping.
Thank you.
Does the union have any cross-examination?
Yes, we do. Where were you at the time of the incident?
I was in the house in the kitchen.
Did you see the incident?
I did not.
So you didn't see Sue arrest him?
No, like I said, when I got on the scene, he was already in the handcuffs in the car.
Okay. I have 3 prior incident reports from Officer Sue regarding James. They state that Officer Sue has talked to either you or your husband about changing James' behavior. Why hasn't his behavior changed?
I have not spoken with Officer Sue before, so that would be why. I did not see this behavior reoccurring.
I have an incident report here from June 4th, in which Officer Sue says she spoke to you about making sure James knew that it's inappropriate to throw rocks. You're saying that never happened?
Nope. Maybe she had talked to James, but she had not come in and talked to me.
Okay, thank you.
Any redirect?
Anything else?
Nope.
Nope, we're ready to go to our next
Okay.
witness, which is going to be
Okay.
James' father.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give on the matter before the arbitrator is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed.
Who are you in relation to James?
I'm his father.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a material handler.
What time do you work from?
6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
What did you do after work that day?
I went and picked up James.
What time does James get done with school?
About 3 o'clock.
How does James get home from school?
I drive him home after school is done.
How long does it take to get from school to home?
About 15 minutes.
What time did you get home from school?
3:15.
What did you and James do when you got home?
I went to the garage, and James told us that he was going to go and play with his friends outside, and he didn't have any homework.
So what time did James leave the house?
3:30.
What time did you go to the garage?
I left the same time, about 3:30.
What were you doing while James was out with his friends?
I was out in the garage fixing up my car.
What time did the incident occur?
About 4 o'clock.
Where were you at the time of the incident?
I was in the garage.
Were you in direct view of James the whole time while he was playing with his friends?
Nope. The only time I saw him was when he was coming back home.
What was James doing right before the police car arrived?
He was picking up some stones, pebbles, and tossing it like a quarterback would.
Was James by himself or with friends before the police car arrived?
He was in front of his friends, about 10 to 15 feet.
What was your first reaction when you saw the police officer talking and arresting James?
I was confused, stunned.
How did you react when the police officer was arresting and putting James into the police car?
I was confused, angry. I was shouting, waving my hands out, kind of like a crazy man, as I went out to the garage to the police officer.
Were there other people around, like neighbors, people walking by, family or friends?
There were neighbors outside doing some yard work, and his friends, they were trailing about 10 to 15 feet behind him.
Where was your wife?
She was inside.
What did the officer say to James when she put him in the car?
I don't know what she said before, but I did hear the Miranda rights and something about going in the back seat of the car until he cooled down.
What did you say to the police officer?
I was just angry, kind of yelling, saying, "Why are you arresting James?"
What did the officer say she was arresting James for?
She said something about incorrigible juvenile.
Do you believe that James understood what being an incorrigible juvenile meant?
No, he's a 7-year-old boy.
Did the scene draw the attention of your neighbors?
Yes.
What did you and your wife do while James sat in the police car?
Like I said, I was kind of frustrated, angry. I was kind of waving my hands, kind of shouting. My wife was crying and pleading to let him go.
Did James go to jail or was he let go?
He was let go.
How did you feel after the whole incident?
And I was still angry. I was less trusting the police force, confused.
How has James acted since the incident?
He's, like his mother said, he was scared. He stayed up all night. His schoolwork had been dropping. We got calls from teachers about asking how James is doing and stuff.
Thank you.
Does the union have any cross-examination?
Yes.
We do. Where were you at the time of the incident?
I was in the garage.
Did you see the incident take place?
Yes.
Did you see the arrest?
Yes.
I have 3 prior incident reports. The officer Sue had talked to James before about throwing rocks at cars. They state that Officer Sue talked to you and your wife about changing his behavior. Why hasn't his behavior changed?
I have not met Officer Sue till today.
So you deny that she spoke with you on July 19th and August 22, like these incident reports say?
Correct.
Okay, no further questions.
Are there any other questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Does the employer have any other witnesses?
We do. It's the supervisor.
Okay. Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give on the matter before the arbitrator is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
What is your name and position with the police force?
I'm Trevor Spoolma. I'm a supervisor for the police force.
How long have you been with the police force?
Been with the police force for 20 years.
And of those 20 years, how long have you been a supervisor?
For 15 years.
How many officers are under your supervision?
10 officers are.
Did you hire Officer Sue?
No.
Were you involved in the process of hiring Officer Sue?
No, I wasn't.
Does Sue ever talk about her time in the armed forces?
No, she hasn't brought it up.
What is her reputation with the other police officers?
She carries herself in a way that people know she was in the military.
What is her employee record like?
She's been with us for 10 years, and before incident in June 2011, it was spotless. But in June 2011, she was suspended for 5 days.
Could you please describe the incident from June 2011?
Yep. Yeah, in June 2011, while Sue was making a routine traffic stop in the corner of Division and Wealthy, she stopped a woman for smoking marijuana out in public. And when she stopped the car, she got out and asked the woman for marijuana, but the woman wouldn't give it over to her. And the woman called her a few names, so Sue took the matter into her own, dumped a 70-year-old woman out onto the streets, resulting in physical harm to the elderly woman.
All right. And what was Sue's disciplinary action from that incident?
She was suspended for 5 days.
And what specifically was she suspended for?
She was suspended for violating rules 3, 8, and 14 of the employer handbook.
Okay. What was the overall impact of the incident from last year?
Well, once that incident got out and what happened, it resulted to the elderly woman. The press got a hold of it, and it really damaged the reputation of the police department.
What did you tell Sue about future rule violations after that incident?
It's in the mediation summary that any future violations of the employee contract could result to disciplinary action up to and including termination.
How long has Sue been working with her current partner?
She's been working with her current partner for a year.
Okay. And when did you hear about the incident involving James?
I heard about the incident over dispatch soon after it was called in.
And did you speak with Sue about the incident, and if so, when?
Yes, I talked to her Saturday, the next day.
And when you spoke with her, what reason did she give you for arresting James?
She told me that she was trying to teach James a lesson and make sure he knew how serious of an offense.
And in her actions in the incident with James, what specific rules did Sue break?
She violated rules 3, 18, and 14 of the employee handbook.
3. And how did you determine the discipline for the incident in question?
Well, after our investigatory interview, I talked to the HR director at the police force, and we took the investigatory interview into consideration and the video evidence from the incident. And what really shocked me about the whole thing was just the way Sue treated this 7-year-old. It really struck me, that she didn't keep in mind that he was a 7-year-old. And right on the video, we hear phrases like, none of this stuff. She was waving her finger in James's face, and I'm going to take you to jail, okay? And then also she said, I'm going to put you in the back of the police car until you calm down, essentially. So just the things that she said and the way she treated this very fragile 7-year-old didn't strike me as right in values that the police force represented. While also making the decision, we took into consideration her past history with the police department. We just noted that just over a year ago she violated the same exact rules in the handbook. It was warned that further violations of the rules would result in disciplinary action, and then here, just over a year later, the same things cropped up and were violated again. So we took all those things into consideration and did decide, that termination was the best action because we can't risk to have who is known to be the bully on our police force, who through her actions was demeaning, intimidating the people she came in contact with.
And what does the law say about arresting minors?
The law says you need to notify the parents as soon as you can.
Okay, and then when was the last time all your officers were trained on the employee policies?
At the yearly policy review meeting on March 11, 2012.
Did Sue make you aware of any circumstances that may interfere with her work performance?
No, she hasn't brought anything up, even though we do maintain a relationship with our employees where they do know that they can come to us if they do have any issues that come up, that we can work with them.
And you were able to see the video of the incident with James. Are your employees aware that they are being monitored electronically?
Yep, that's another thing we routinely go over at the policy review meeting.
Okay, we have no further questions.
Okay, does the union have any cross-examination?
Yes, but first we had an objection, if we could. All right. In the mediation report, it states that further violation will result in further disciplinary action, including termination. That was never discussed at the investigatory interview. And this was made after the fact. Can that still be in there then? Well, this is what Swift had you guys make up afterwards.
Yeah.
She was part.
Yeah, but the
termination. You never brought that up at the investigatory interview.
That's the way any disciplinary action ends with any further violation.
You never notified the employee of what? That they could be terminated for another.
That's the mediation report. That's the result of the mediation. It goes back to the same principle idea as accepting the settlement, knowing that there was a settlement. We didn't say, the details of the settlement because it was never necessary for us to bring up. And we weren't asked about it. Same thing with the mediation. It was known in the facts that there was a mediation that resulted from the previous incident. And this is the mediation report that we have. It's written in standard, typical disciplinary action mediation report language.
We just wanted to clarify that Officer Sue was not warned that she could be terminated
with another
incident. That's all that we wanted to add.
Okay, where is this mediation report housed? Because it states in the employer exhibit number 6 that the paragraph that you're talking about, I believe, is please be advised that further actions that are in violation of the employment rules will lead to further disciplinary actions up to and including termination. This reads as though it was presented to Officer Sue. Was this something that was presented to Officer Sue at the time of the prior incident?
Yes. We were never informed of it.
It wasn't introduced in the investigatory interview, obviously, since this is a mock situation, we don't know.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't in the background of the case, nor did they introduce it in the investigatory interview.
Would you?
Okay, well, what One of the precepts of just cause is that progressive discipline. This report here would indicate that there was a prior violation and there was prior discipline, and that she was given a warning at that point in time that further disciplinary action could be forthcoming if she violated rules again, up to and including termination. I wouldn't think that this would be something that would necessarily have to be part of the investigatory process presented to the grievant. The grievant should already be aware of the ground that she's on at the time, that because of the letter that she had been given previously.
Okay, that's fair. We do have a cross-examination.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, what is your position with the police department?
I'm a supervisor.
All right. And how long have you been employed there?
20 years.
Okay. Officer Sue has had one prior incident with the police force. Could you please re-explain that?
Yep. Back in June 2011, on the corner of Wealthy and Division, she made a routine traffic stop because she saw a woman in a wheelchair smoking marijuana. She stopped her and asked her for more of her marijuana to confiscate, obviously. And when the woman wouldn't give it over reluctantly, she proceeded to push the woman out of her wheelchair onto the street, resulting in physical damages.
And what names did she call her?
She called her stupid and fat.
Okay. And what was the discipline?
The discipline was suspension of 5 days.
What was the original discipline?
The original discipline was 15 days.
And why was the discipline reduced?
We had a mediation, and then the mediation resulted in the 5-day suspension.
So you initially over-disciplined?
I mean, that's the way it would appear.
Let me stop the parties right here, since this is a learning environment as well, okay?
Okay.
Settlement agreements are something that are generally considered inappropriate to have before an arbitrator. So if you have, as an example, a prior discipline where somebody was given 15 days and then through the course of a grievance procedure, the suspension was allowed to stand, however it was reduced to 5 days, it would be inappropriate to enter a contest to that in front of an arbitrator. The impact of doing something like that would be that in the future, an employer would be reluctant to ever reduce discipline. So if an employee received 15 days and the union came in and said, we think this was excessive, the employer would be very, very reluctant to say, even if they may have made themselves believe that 5 days would still serve the purpose, they would be very reluctant to ever do anything to settle the grievance. The whole purpose of meeting in the grievance procedure is to try to settle grievances at the earliest stage possible, and sometimes that's done by modifying the length of a penalty, especially when you're dealing with a suspension. The point that's important in progressive discipline is the fact that there was actually a suspension. The length of the suspension isn't necessarily that critical. So the fact that one was taken down from 15 days to 5 days would, first of all, not be any evidence that discipline was excessive initially. It only indicates that the employer was willing to reduce the amount of the suspension to 5 days to resolve the issue and keep a suspension on the record.
Okay.
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 Could you please define excessive force?
Excessive force or unnecessary?
Unnecessariness of excessive force.
Unnecessary force is not taking into consideration who you're dealing with when you interact with them.
James was not physically harmed or injured during the arrest. Why do you believe that Sue used unnecessary force?
We believe unnecessary force was in the form of intimidation and demeaning behavior toward James. So whether or not physical injury actually occurred, we hit on emotional distress and negative psychological damage obvious to us in the evidence with him crying and not making eye contact with Sue throughout the whole process.
Okay. Could you please tell me about the other incident of excessive force that you have with the other officer from the investigatory interview?
Yep. We had another officer, similar situation, who was unreasonable in her dealings with an 8-year-old, and we suspended.
Cop was a male, correct?
What cop?
From the other incident.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
You misspoke and said her.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
continue.
Yeah, go
I've been
on.
thinking about Sue. Yeah, but then he was suspended 30 days because we don't take dealing in those ways lightly with minors. It was a very similar situation where the police officer was just unreasonable in his dealings with a minor. So we believe the discipline was fair with that regard.
He wasn't discharged, though?
Correct, because we found with that police officer, he had been with the police force for 30 years and had a spotless record.
Okay. Why is Sue's case different?
Sue's case is different for a lot of reasons. This incident with James happens to be her second incident in just over a year that involved a rule violation of the same 3 rules. And also this is the second offense, whereas the other situation, it was the police officer's first offense. And Sue has only been with the police force for 10 years as opposed to 30 years.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the employer? Any redirect?
Further questions?
No further questions?
Nope.
Okay. Does the employer have any other witnesses?
Nope.